So I'm turning the balance around this way to free the end of the spring. So the impulse pin has now come out a notch, which is okay. Now feed the balance back again so that the end of the spring enters into the regulator. Now get the spring entering into the block there. And now get the pin. And sometimes I use that pin as a tool so I can move the balance spring up or down in the gap, in the stud. Get the pin in the right position. Now replace the pin. Now before you finally pin it up, try and get that balance spring reasonably flat.
In the middle of that slot?
No, don't worry about being in the middle of any slots. The priority, for the moment at least, is a flat balance spring. Now using flat nose pliers, just tighten the pin. So that's the pin flattened, and as you can see there, the balance spring is looking quite flat, and that was the priority. It's looking flat from the front, and if we turn the clock around on its side and get the focusing right, you can see that the balance spring is looking flat on the side as well. Now what I'm going to do is stop the balance so that the impulse pin lies on an imaginary line joining the balance and the pallet. So there's the centre for the balance, there's the pallet centre, so I'm stopping the impulse pin on that imaginary line. Now I'm going to check that the balance spring is touching neither side of the regulator here. There we go. Now that's going to, not going to show up too well on the screen, but with an eyeglass it'll show up perfectly well. So check that the balance spring isn't touching either side in the gap there, and in this particular instance the spring is touching the outside of the regulator. So what I do is I bring my tweezers near to the stud and just bend the spring in a little bit. That's a little bit too far. No, it isn't. That's right. That's exactly right. So just now, the balance spring is halfway across the gap in the regulator. That is halfway across this way. We're not worried about being halfway top and bottom. As long as it clears the bottom and clears the top, then it's going to be okay. So that'll now be okay. And as you can see, the clock is working. Now one point that we need to make here is that when you pin the balance spring, you'll notice that before you pin it anyway, that the balance spring has a shape something like that. Now it's vital that this point here is level with a block for pinning, like that. and then your pin goes in here. So that change in angle there should be level with the top of the block there. That is most important. Right, the balance is in now, and we've got the remaining lubrication points to do. First, I'm going to first I'm going to put a little drop of medium oil on the imports pin on the area that engages with a notch in the lever. Don't allow too much oil to go on there so that it flows down to the bottom of the pin. It's just to lubricate between the pin and the notch. And next I would put a drop of oil on the imports face of alternate escape wheel teeth.
The impulse
Yes.
face of the rock.
Yeah. Well, I'll explain that to you later. What I'm doing is controlling the balance.
That's your plastic wheel on that one.
On this particular one,
Yeah.
yes. I'm controlling the balance. More often than not, it'll be a brass escape wheel. But I'm controlling the balance, I'm stopping the balance so that I have access to one of the teeth. And I put a small drop of oil. I just stab the oiler onto it, so a little bit of oil comes off the oiler, but most of the oil stays on the oiler. Now allow two teeth to pass, and then put another drop of oil on the next tooth. Allow a couple of teeth to pass, and then another drop of oil. And I keep that up until I've oiled half the teeth in the wheel. There are 15 teeth in the wheel generally, so if you oil about 7 teeth, then you'll find that as the clock works, the oil will be spread to both pins, both part pins, and all of the teeth. Don't know if we can get this up closer and show you what I was doing. Can you see on the tips of those teeth there? You can see there on the, get the focusing right, just there.
Yeah.
There's a little flat face there. It's that area that you oil. So put a small drop of oil on every other tooth, and then as the clock works, the oil will spread to both pins and the whole wheel. Well, the clock is going. We've finished the assembly, and we can start thinking about the casing now. So in preparation for the casing, remove the winding keys. Remove the hand setter for the time, unscrew the hand setter for the alarm. And now we can turn our attentions to the case. If your case is painted as this one is, then you can clean the case either with a little bit of soapy water, or you could dip a cloth into the spirit from your spirit jar and give it a wipe over. If the case is a wooden case, you can use a little bit of furniture polish on it. If the case is a marble case, then we would probably clean that with linseed oil. But if you have any other sort of case that's anything of a problem, then let me know and we'll tell you how to deal with that. So give the case a wipe over to remove any finger marks or any stains at all, and also wipe out the inside of the case. Then replace the movement into the case. If there are 4 nuts there, put them on. If there are screws in the middle there, then replace the screws. But in this instance, there's nothing there. It's the bezel that holds the whole thing secure, in fact. So, for the purpose of setting hands and dials on, put the alarm set arbor on, put the hand setter on, and put the alarm winding key on, but not the time winding key, because it'll only get in the way. Now replace the dial, and try to keep your fingers off the front of the dial. Give the back of the dial a wipe over, and also the hour wheel. Then replace the dial. Locate the dial about these little tags on the front plate. These are not intended to be bent over, it leaves them sticking up straight. If you must hold the dial or touch the dial, then I suggest you use the back of the index finger, provided it's clean. It's likely to be cleaner than the fingertips anyway. So use the back of the finger to hold the dial on. Then turn the hands to any convenient hour. I'm choosing 9 o'clock. So eye along the hand like that to make sure that it's lined up exactly right. Now replace the minute hand and put that to exactly 12. Now remove the hand setter and then with your cannon pinion punch, next up. Right. Support on a steel block or even the side of the oil pot there on the centre wheel. And tap the hand on so that it's secure. Now before we check the hand, we'll explain to you what you need to know about the hand. This is representing the hour wheel. So that's the bit that sticks through the dial. And we have in the middle of here, we've got the centre arbor that protrudes up through the hour wheel. Now our hands always go flush with the top of the hour wheel. So we've got the hour hand on there, and a little bit of a pipe just there to hold. So that pipe is drawing section. When you put the minute hand on, the minute hand goes onto the parallel part of the arbor. So that's supposed to be gently curving away. And you have a pipe there. So the rounded part of the centre arbor is just protruding through the hand. Now it's vital that after the minute hand has been put on, that there is end shape still with the hour wheel. So in fact, you tickle the hour wheel up and down and make sure that the hand and the wheel will lift until, of course, this part of the hour wheel or hand touches the underneath side of there. So you've got end shake in your hour wheel. And I always make that check with every watch and every clock I ever do.
So where's that you mean?
I mean that after you've given the hand on, that you check that there is a gap here. And the check is...
I can't quite see on it, is there a sand?
you can see on the monitor there, anyway. Check there. So you see if I lift the wheel up and down,
Oh, there's that little bit of play.
there's that little bit of play.
That's the hour hand, isn't it?
That's the hour wheel and hand.
Yeah.
It's the hour wheel particularly you're seeing moving up and down. That is a check that I do on every watch and every clock I've ever repaired.
Right.
So that's okay. Now in addition to that, you want to check that the hands, eventually anyway, you're going to check that all of the hands, which means hour hand, minute hand, alarm hand, you're going to check that they clear the glass, that they clear the dial, and that they clear each other. But also check that the hands are parallel and not cocked over to one side, otherwise when the clock alarms the hand could even fall off. So that hand is looking parallel in the centre there. So now replace the hand setter and then make sure that the hands are going to clear each other. In fact, they do clear each other quite generously there, even when the hour wheel is lifted. The hands still clear each other. But they're clearing rather generously. So I think in this instance we would be able to bend the minute hand down slightly. Right, that's okay. Now turn the hands to 7 o'clock. Doesn't matter particularly whether you turn them forwards or backwards. Right, turn the hands to 7 o'clock. Now wind, I know the clock alarmed then, but that wasn't helpful to the lesson, and I turned the alarm set arbor to a different position. So turn the hands to 7 o'clock. Now wind the alarm, so the alarm stop detent is reset. Now turn the alarm set arbor slowly until the clock alarms. Now the clock has just alarmed, so the alarm hand should be pointing to 7 o'clock. It's important that you turn the hands forwards rather than backwards to give you access to the arbor there, and then we're going to replace the alarm hand.
In the 7 o'clock position?
In the 7 o'clock position. So there's the hand going back on again, and adjust the hand so it's pointing to exactly 7 o'clock. Right, now the hand is pointing to exactly 7 o'clock, and I push the hand on. fact, right now that's showing just after 7. So turn the hand around a little bit until it's pointing to exactly 7. Now turn the handset arbor to about 1 o'clock. Turn the hands backwards to save going forwards by 12 hours. Turn the hands backwards to about 5 o'clock and reset the alarm hand now to exactly 7. That's the hand set to exactly 7. Now turn the hands forward, but first of all wind to reset the alarm stop detent. Now turn the hands forward and of course the clock should alarm at 7. Now the alarm went off 10 minutes early. That means that the alarm hand needs to be lifted off and repositioned to show 10 to 7. So I'm lifting the hand off, repositioning it to 10 to 7. Now turn the alarm hand again to show about 1 o'clock. Turn the hands backwards by a couple of hours. That says going forwards by, I said 12 just now, but forwards by about 10 hours. Now reset the alarm to exactly 7 and check it again. So that's the alarm set exactly to 7. So now come forward. Rewind to reset the alarm stop detent. Now that went off even earlier. And I just realised why. I moved the hand in the wrong direction. But it doesn't matter, it still suits our purpose. The alarm now is going off at 20 to 7, so therefore I put the alarm hand to about 20 to 7. This time I've moved the hand in the right direction. So upset the alarm by turning the hand to about 1. Come back a couple of hours, reset the alarm for exactly 7, and we should be a little bit closer this time. So that's set for exactly 7. Now turn the hand forwards, reset the alarm stop detent. Now, I would suggest that the alarm should never go off late. It should go off on time or up to 3 minutes early, and that would be acceptable by the customer. Now this alarm went off 2.5 minutes early, so I would say that's acceptable. Now the hour and the minute hands are already secure, but we have to secure the alarm hand. So for that, move the hands around to give you access to the alarm hand. And now, using a suitable punch, drive the alarm hand on. So this time we're going to rest on the alarm set arbor there. While we support the suitable punch. and then drive on the alarm gun. Check that the alarm hand is clearing the dial. Which it is. Check that all hands clear each other, and check that all hands, particularly the milk hand, clears the glass. For that, we'll have to put the glass on. If your glass happens to be a glass, then you can use a little bit of methylated spirits or even a little bit of lighter fuel to clean the inside of the glass. If it's perspex, as this one is, then just blow the dust out from the glass and wipe it over with a cloth if it is dirty, and then replace the glass. With this glass, there's no particular position to locate it, so just drop it into position and then replace the bezel. And secure. That's our clock finished now, so we'll put on the remaining winding key. So wind both trains. Set the time to the exact time, which is 1.5 minutes past midday. And now test the clock for 24 hours.